He and I are still in contact. We still have this crazy connection. And if I don't explore this, I can't move forward in my life. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Serena.
And I'm James.
And we are Life After Union. So we are two twin flames in union. We make these videos for you to help you through your twin flame awakening journey, your conscious relationships, and your spiritual path. So today you might feel, I don't know, many of you are very intuitive. You might feel I'm a bit low energy. We were moving through, or I was moving through quite a lot of emotional releases last night. So I'm feeling a little bit energetically low, but we had this space and time that doesn't always come about. So we wanted to still come on and make videos for you guys and help you. And we've had quite a lot of comments and quite a lot of responses on our Ask Me Anything form, which is, if you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe and like and comment. Please interact with this video as much as you can. But our Ask Me Anything form is this beautiful energetic container where you can ask us anything, and in exchange for whatever question you give us, we will answer it here on this channel, not only to help you on your path, but also to help other people who may be moving through something similar. So this is a beautiful energetic exchange. It's completely free. So if you'd like to ask us anything, you can check the link down below. But yeah, we've had a lot of comments, a lot of responses lately, a lot of beautiful views and comments on our recent videos. So we just want to say thank you very much. If you are new here, if you've been here, thanks for following us on our journey. Just want to say a lot of thank you.
Thanks.
And also, don't worry about me if I seem low in energy. That was why I brought up this whole thing. It's because I might feel like a little bit energetically low, but it's really important, I think, when we have this space and time to come and serve, that we do that. And actually, we've both felt this way in the past, where when we're maybe not in the mood to make a video and then we make a video, it actually uplifts your mood more, you know?
Ends up being much deeper videos as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that comes out because we're not guarded, I guess, because we haven't got the energy to guard ourselves.
Yeah. Thanks for throwing me right under the bus there.
Anytime, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, no, I agree with you though. It definitely, it's a lot of times more authentic and more raw, because we're not like, oh hey, hi, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, this is actually how we're showing up, and it's still important to show up. It's still important to show up and do this. So this is not a question from my Ask Me Anything form, but it is a question that we had in the comments. So we're going to share it here. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you guys are here, please watch till the end, because all the goodness comes throughout the whole video. So the question that we have today this was a comment on one of our most recent videos. Thank you both for emphasizing the importance of making the commitment. You both emphasize teamwork. It takes awareness to realize this. Did you both know this was a twin flame connection or journey in the beginning? Or rather, when did you know? Who figured it out first? When did you share this with him or her? What was the response? I'm curious. You also mentioned you have the option to move on if you see that they're not ready. What made you choose not to move on and to work on this relationship? So I think there's a lot to dive into here. So we'll just go kind of question by question. So the first question was, did you both know that this was a twin flame connection journey in the beginning? I would say no for myself either. I would say I was the first one to know or to suspect. But that's because I had heard and known about twin flames before meeting you. And I actually, if you guys watch, I have a whole kind of section on our YouTube channel about my twin flame story, and I actually still need to finish this. I've stopped on part 3, and I still need to do part 4, part 5, but it's become such a long thing that it's taken me some time to get through it. But that being said, I talk about this, how I actually believed my karmic was my twin flame because of all the signs and synchronicities. And this was a whole journey for me around trusting what I feel over trusting signs and synchronicities. Not to say you shouldn't trust signs and synchronicities, but I had put magic on a pedestal and disregarded what my heart and my intuitions was feeling. And so this karmic relationship really reeled me in with magic and synchronicity and signs and all these beautiful, crazy universal things, and the dynamic of the relationship was quite toxic at the end of the day, and I like let go of my heart and like my intuition to favor like what the universe was saying. And there was a reason for that, right? Because it was to bring me to you, because literally that karmic relationship brought me all the way to James. So if I didn't,
in the middle of nowhere,
if I didn't hang on that long, it would have been a whole different story. But that being said, I had known about twin flames. I always kind of knew that this type of a relationship was out there for me, but I was very cynical at the end of my karmic relationship when I met James. So I went through this whole crazy thing, and believe me, I didn't know anything about twin flames or karmic relationships actually in my karmic relationship, because my karmic didn't believe in twin flames. So he had made a funny comment at the beginning of our relationship being like, oh yeah, like women always think I'm their twin flame. And I was like, oh, I'm embarrassed because I thought the same thing. And so then I was like, I dropped it and I didn't pick it up again for the duration of our relationship. So what's really interesting, it wasn't until I met James when the connection truly struck me. And I was like, what is this? And I was looking for information. I was looking for I was just doing a lot of research when I met James and trying to figure out what is this, like many of you guys do. And it brought me to realizing that a karmic relationship exists. And this is a quite toxic relationship. It ends up usually being a very short-term, short-lived relationship. And that, it's a great act of self-love to leave the karmic. So it's interesting how you only get the information on this journey when you need it, because up until that information, I thought I was with like my twin flame. I thought I was with like my soulmate, and lo and behold, that wasn't the case. And yes, it was a type of soul contract, but not what I thought it was. And so for me, meeting James, there was a giant fear of the fact that he might be my twin flame, because I was like, oh hell no, I just went through all of this thinking that this person was, and then they weren't, and now what if I'm deceived again? So I had a lot of fears around it, and I spent weeks, like in the very beginning when I first met you, we met and then we separated, and then we had about a month while I was still traveling. And during that month, I was looking up his astrology, I was looking up his human design, I was comparing it to my karmic partner.
All these things I had no idea about.
I was doing all of this research trying to figure out what the heck is this. And you were over there just doing whatever you were doing.
Just
but
living
you
life,
also
yeah.
had, I think your dad had maybe said, oh, well, like maybe this is your soulmate or something like that. So like there was some people, I think, in your sphere that you had told them about me, and they were like, oh, well, maybe this is a very special connection or something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had never heard of twin flames. Soulmates, obviously, people speak about soulmates for forever and a day, and everyone knows about soulmates, and that's kind of, what most people think is like your ultimate connection.
Yeah.
You open up my eyes to say that you can have multiple soulmates, but I always only thought it was one. But yeah, I think it was my dad, and I think Elimor as well was also saying that like this could be a much deeper connection than what I was realizing. Because I mean, after kind of the first time I met you, which we only really spent the one evening talking originally, I was already infatuated with you, which kind of baffled my brain. And I was like, this is not what I'm here for. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to do a bit of work, and, do a bit of a different lifestyle, a bit more relaxed. Even though, I was hoping to find something like this, I didn't expect it to come at that point. And then obviously you started telling me about twin flames and comics and all these things, and there was a part of my head that was like, this chick is crazy. She's this weird hippie lady from America. And there was another part of me that was like, well, maybe you should also just listen to it a little bit and just try and get a better understanding of what you're trying to say and the reason why you use the terminologies that you use. And that kind of changed my perspective a little bit, and from there I was able to engage more in what you're actually sharing with me, and I think that really helped as we kind of moved forward. You noticed first.
I noticed first within probably about a month of us meeting. I started to do research and figure out, okay, what is this? What's going on here? I also would consider myself identifiably more the spiritual one, right? Where you're very spiritual intuitively, but you don't like practice spirituality like in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I just live my life, which just happens to have spiritual aspects to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I was a lot more in the spiritual world, so naturally I would have come to that conclusion quicker than you.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that you're not super interested in that world the way that I am.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of person to go and sit and do research on it. For me, I'm very intuitive. I'll feel what I feel and trust kind of my gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so then the question here is, or rather, when did you know? So about a month in, I suspected.
Month and a week for me.
Because
that's what you told me.
I brought it to your attention after we were in separation. I didn't say anything about it until I think months into our separation. I remember being back in the United States, still doing research and being like, should I share this with him? Should I not share this with him? And I think I just brought it up very casually in a text message. And I was like, have you ever heard of twin flames? Like
text message.
Do you know, yeah, like a
it's like
book.
one little like hyphen sentence.
A book. And I was like, do you know what this thing is? Like, have you ever heard of this? And, I think then I started kind of explaining it and stuff like that. So it was brought up like fairly casually, but I also had done a lot of work around the fact, like, because I had protection because of the fact that we were hundreds of thousands of miles away from each other. Yeah, we were thousands of miles away from each other, and 8 hours time difference. So it gave us a lot of opportunity to do that work before the person actually responded, so we could like send the text message and then go through all the doubt in our minds, go through all the fears, go through all the projections, the blame, like go through all of that while we are still like processing before that person even, because then you would be sleeping or I would be sleeping, and then we would respond to each other. You would be working and then respond at the end of the day, stuff like that. So we had this massive, like almost full day waking hours time gap in order to process all of that. And I think I moved through like, okay, well, if this guy thinks I'm crazy, like that's fine, then he's not the one for me, and we're not even on the same continent and so we can just move on with our lives. So for me, it wasn't like, for a lot of you guys, it's a very high risk situation, because either you're bringing it up in person or you still have that attachment to like, this needs to work out. So I'm scared if I tell them about twin flames, they're going to reject me and they're going to reject the idea. And that's a very real fear. It's just something each one of us has to work through at our own pace and realize, like, if I can't be my full authentic self with this person, then I don't want to be with them anyways, right? If they're going to reject this aspect of something that I believe, then that's on them. That's not on me, right? Like, that's not a reflection of me. That's a reflection of them. So I think you have to, when you ask them or you start talking about it with somebody that doesn't believe or doesn't know about twin flames, you have to also ask yourself these questions about, are you okay with these realities playing out? Because you never know how the other person might respond, but it's also not your responsibility, I suppose.
Yeah, you got to stay strong in your own beliefs, and if the other person doesn't have the exact same beliefs, doesn't mean that it's going to or not going to work out. It then comes down to how strong your connection is with this person. Is it something you're willing to work through? I mean, even sometimes still today, some of the terminology stuff you use, I can understand, and do I necessarily, live my life and subscribe to them? No, but I can still have understanding for it, and I can still respect it. I might look at it in a different light, that you might have the same views as I do.
Yes.
And it's about just, being open with one another, and you're going to have your differences of opinions, and that's really important, because what ends up happening is you get a lot deep into things because you're coming from two different perspectives. Ultimately, it's going towards the same thing, but it's two viewpoints that really broaden the horizons.
And I think there's something really important to talk about, and in that scope, which I think is really important that you brought it up, because of the fact that there is a deep, deep sadness of the fact that, yes, I live in this very spiritual, magical world, and you live in a world that's much more practical. And yes, when we come together, it does, like, it marries very well. And when we do start speaking about things, we always find, I think, like you said, the labels. So like our labels or how we see things might be different, but our core values and like the way that we go about things or the things that we believe are actually aligned at the end of the day. We just see things in two different ways. But there is, I will say, like, there is a deep, deep sadness in that from time to time, because you want this person to see your perspective. You want this person to live your experience, and they can't. He will never know what's within me, and I will never know what's deeply within him. We are, I would say, the closest to that than either of us have ever been in a relationship before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't say no.
No.
So yeah, we're the closest to that in a relationship that either of us have ever been. We can be our most authentic selves. We can share our most vulnerable truths. But ultimately, this is that time and space in your twin flame dynamic where you are meant to see yourself, right? Like if I have a very spiritual way of seeing something, and we were talking about this the other day about finances and investing. Were you thinking
I was thinking about us down in Nature's Valley, the conversation we had there.
Okay. But there was, we were just speaking about this, and I was like, oh, and then I saw this, and then I saw this, and then it was aligned in this, and he's like, yeah, sure, okay. And I'm like, you feel like in that moment, you feel a bit deeply wounded because this person is not validating your experience, but it's not up to him to validate my experience. It's up to me to validate my experience and say, like, this is what I believe, this is how I'm perceiving reality, and to be strong enough in the way that I see and experience things that I don't need his validation of that. Like, of course, if I come to him and say, like last night, if I come to you and I say, like, look, I'm really struggling through this, I know that you will provide me a clear perspective on whatever it is I'm struggling with. But I also have that foundation and that grounding that I don't need it. And like, yes, there is a deep sadness because you want this person to fill all of those spaces, but only you can fill all of those spaces, right? They're there to add to your life, not fill voids. So
yeah, as well, I think a lot of times when it comes to that, when you're trying to share something deep from yourself that, like for you, it's very spiritual, for me, it's very practical. Sometimes we feel that if the other person can't understand it, that they're trying to like almost take it away from you. Like you start to get defensive. You're like, well, why aren't you understanding this? And at the end of the day, I mean, at least I know with us, 95% of the time, we're not actually taken away from the other person. We are validating them, but just from our own perspective. And sometimes we have these wounds that actually stop us from being able to actually see that and be like, look, they're not actually trying to take anything away from you. They're actually supporting you. They might not be able to see the same way. They can understand to a degree, but they're trying to then, convert that into a way that they understand, which sometimes can feel like a bit of attack because you're like, but that's not what I'm saying because that's not my wording. But it's like, might not be your wording, but it would be my wording to understand what you're saying, right. Which sometimes then causes more confusion.
Right.
And that's where it can get quite complicated, and where things can kind of get lost a bit, and where things can kind of seem to blow up when there's actually no real reason for it.
Right. Yeah, there is no reason for it. And actually what's striking me right now is a teacher. Like, I had multiple teachers growing up, and I don't know if you guys experienced this in school systems, but they would say, in order to know that you understand something, you have to put it in your own words. And so your twin flame, when they are doing what you're talking about, they're essentially trying to understand you by putting it in their own words or trying it on in their own perspective. And yes, that can feel really scary, especially if you grew up like gaslit or you grew up codependent, because your reality didn't exist. So you had to like conform to other people's realities. So that's what makes this situation so scary. But just realize, like, this is the difference between that childhood trauma and healing it, is seeing that this person next to you is not trying to take away your perspective. They're not trying to side with other people. They're just trying to understand you through their own perspective, and sometimes that can just seem like a miscommunication.
And a lot of times when that happens as well, instead of kind of allowing that wound to take over, rather ask your partner and be like, what is it that you are trying to come across with? Like, are you trying to just understand it from your own perspective, or are you trying to change what I'm trying to tell you? Because sometimes just asking that simple question can change, like half an hour's worth of a discussion, because you're getting straight to the core of it. You're getting straight to the deep side of it, and just attacking it head on.
Yeah, I think your response to me telling you about twin flames was pretty neutral. I think, in your and again, you guys, we had this buffer of time, and we also had this buffer of a lot of our messages happened over voice note or text message. So again, he had the time to process, oh, this girl is crazy. Oh, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? Like, do I subscribe to this? Should I even look into this any deeper? Like, you had the time to process all that, and then you buffered your response to like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I haven't heard of that. Blah, blah, blah. Tell me more, like that kind of a thing. So we had this time to experience all the emotions and all of the wounds and belief systems, and then respond accordingly. Where if you've got a lot of our stuff has actually gotten messier, I think, since being together, because the face-to-face like lack of time to process, it's challenging when you're actually with them, because those triggers happen and you don't have anywhere to retreat to always. You can make the space to do that, but that's a whole other conversation. So I think in some ways, like, our union has actually gotten messier because of that. Now we're in that crunch time, where before we had all this time and space to process and explore these different things before we responded to the person. And there was a lot of freedom in, if I don't get a response from you, that's okay. I'm not angry. If you don't get a response from me, that's okay. That's all right.
Well, I think also part of it was, and I think that this kind of goes for both of us, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but as well, a lot of our life experiences that we had been through before coming together kind of allowed us to look at these point of views that even if we thought they were crazy, to be able to be like, well, I actually don't know enough about this. So my first response would be like, oh, she's crazy. What am I doing? I should just, block the number and run away to another area of South Africa and hide. Or I could be like, I actually don't know enough about this. Maybe there's some truth. Maybe there's something in this that I can actually learn from. Do I have to conform and completely agree with every single point of it? No, but can I get a deep understanding so I can understand you better? Of course. That is, for me, that's, at least that's the way I saw it. Like, there was an opportunity for me to learn past what I thought I knew. There was like this whole new world. It's like, hey, well, why don't we try this out and see what comes about? Because you never actually know, like, what you're going to learn from this.
Yeah. And I was also, like, to be completely honest, I doubted the twin flame journey for a long time. And even still into me making YouTubes about twin flames. I remember my first YouTube video that I made about twin flames, I literally made a preface of like, hey, I don't really subscribe to this whole twin flame thing. And now here we are years later, like 3-4 years later, still making twin flame videos, because it's been so impactful on those of you that are also on the same journey. So that's to being said, like, evolution is a thing. There's always space to evolve. I didn't want to make videos about twin flames when I first started my YouTube channel. That's not what I wanted to talk about, because I was like, this is crazy. This is psychotic. The people in this community are crazy and psychotic. Like,
and now we're part of it.
Right. And now we have our own community that's beautiful, which, by the way, if you want to join our twin flame community, you can join down below. But like, that's just to say, like, I wasn't always gung-ho about twin flames and like, let's do it. We're twin flames. This is amazing. It wasn't always romanticized in my head. There was a lot of fear surrounding it. There was a lot of fear of shame, of like judgment and shame around it. There was fear of speaking about it publicly. So like, we've been through all of that. And like, I think a lot of times people get, to just take a side track right now, I think a lot of times people see one of our videos, like just one, and make an assumption around us either not being twin flames, or us being like just soulmates, or us like, not having the spiritual chops. But you're seeing a very limited picture of so much time that we've already been through, where someone in separation might see our videos and be like, they can't be twin flames because they're like so calm, or like, they haven't experienced all these crazy spiritual synchronicities. And it's like, yes, we actually have. We're just spoken about we're just beyond talking about it, because we're here in service to you. So like, running down the stories, and this is why I made actually that 3 or 4 part series of like my twin flame journey, so I could actually share some of those things in there. But these questions that we share with you are not asking us that. So we're not talking about it, because we're answering your so we're answering your questions, So if you want to know about our signs and synchronicity, if you want to know about Kundalini activations, like, ask the questions. But other than that, we're going to answer the questions that we see here. So okay, So you also mentioned you have the option to move on if you see that they're not ready. What made you choose not to move on and work on this relationship? So what's really interesting to me is you would be able to speak on this better from your perspective, because in our scenario, I would have been the one that was not ready, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it, right, like you were pretty much kind of ready and open for a relationship. You had done a lot of previous processing on a previous relationship that was kind of toxic for you, and I was in one when we met. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of work to do around leaving that relationship, mending my heart, attending to a previous relationship that I had before that I hadn't tended to, being on my own, learning to love myself, and like all of these different things that I needed to do. And essentially, like, you would have been the one to decide, like, okay, is this worth pursuing or not pursuing? So what was your thought process on, were you worried that I wasn't going to be ready or all of that kind of stuff?
um I mean, there definitely was a part of me that was skeptical whether you're going to be ready and willing to, try. Because obviously, I mean, I knew about the fact that you had just been in a relationship, you had just left that, all those like 6 million things. I mean, obviously, we have probably about, I don't know, 3 weeks worth of voice notes that we could play that would explain a lot of it as well, which is another whole story. Um, but yeah, from my side, like you said, I had gone through, I mean, I think it was like 2 to 4 years worth of working on myself, where I wasn't really in any relationships. I'd worked through my comic, and I was at a point where I was just enjoying myself. And then obviously then you came into my life when we had first met, and when we started talking about actually, trying to get together and seeing if we can actually, if this relationship would work and what would come of it. I was at a point where I was like, you know what, if nothing happens from this and it completely blows up in our face, or just doesn't work, or does work, or whatever happens, I was like, there's nothing that I can really lose from it. I can gain a lot regardless of which direction you want to look at gaining from, but there's nothing I could really lose. I mean, say
You had already arguably been the most hurt you could ever be by another person in your
yeah,
previous
a
relationship.
few
So
times
at that
over.
point, you're like, well, I know I can survive that. So there's nothing else, there's no other way that somebody else could hurt me that I can't
Yeah,
survive.
I mean, the only thing that I could really lose that point, like when you decided you actually want to come back and I left my job, the only thing I lost was the fact that, I had this really cool job as a surf instructor where my work was very easy. I got to meet people from all over the world. It was a really fun, easy lifestyle. Money and stuff wasn't great, but I didn't need that because of the lifestyle I was living. It worked beautifully. So the only thing I was losing was essentially a little bit of freedom.
Your free boy, yeah. Your
Yeah.
free boy lifestyle.
Yeah, my free boy lifestyle, if you want to call it that. So at the end of the day, that's all I was losing. And the thing is, that's something that if I wanted to, I could get back. I could find another opportunity to get that back to me. So from my side, when it came to that, there wasn't really that much for me to lose, but there was a lot for me to gain, regardless whether it worked out or didn't. So that's kind of where I came from, was like, you know, for a long time, I really wanted a deep connection because, you know, flirting around and having your fun and that, it's all good and well, but it gets a bit boring and mundane after a while, and like there's no real connections. And I like to have a connection. I like to have someone who I can go talk to and, like, be with, and drive insane at times as well, and all that, as this one will know very well. But it allowed me the space to just go into it without any expectations or any worries or concerns, and just be able to be a part of it and experience it and just see what came from it. And there was nothing that I was really losing out on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I saw it from.
Yeah. For me, like, I got to a point where I couldn't, my life wasn't moving forward. Like, we were in we were in contact for like 5-6 months or so, and I was living at my dad's house and trying to figure out, okay, am I get my own apartment? Do I want to go live in Mexico? Like, I knew I wanted to be somewhere warm with a beach. Here we are.
I'm on your beach.
Yeah. And like, I knew what I wanted, and I was trying to push. Like, I even went down a whole road of like, what would it be like for me to buy a van and convert the van and just keep traveling for a little while around the United States or somewhere. Like, I had so many options, but like everything that I tried to push forward wasn't working, except for this YouTube thing that was working. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, he and I are still in contact. We still have this crazy connection. And if I don't explore this, I can't move forward in my life until I know if this is something or if it's not something. So I got to a point where I was like, well, I can't move forward in this direction. I can't move forward in this direction. I can't move forward. So I really only kind of had a very small handful of options of directions I could go in. And I knew in order to make sure I was moving in the right direction, I had to at least give this a shot, like a full shot, or I wasn't going to be able to rest. Like there was a part of me that couldn't rest until I explored this option. And basically how our story goes is I went back to South Africa to meet James in his hometown, where we didn't meet before. I'd never been to his hometown. Even though I'd passed through it, I didn't know it at the time. And so James left his job where we had met. We came back to his hometown and we basically have been there ever since. We've done traveling and things like that, but like we've been together since then. That was like...
Yeah, we haven't been separate since then. I mean, maybe like a night or two.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, as you were saying that as well, it's like when you first came here, things seemed to work out really well, because when you first arrived, I had my grandparents' place in Cape Town where they were there because they're overseas. We had that place to stay for a couple of days together where it was just the two of us. Even though we saw my family and all the rest, we had a place where we could cheat, where it was just us. We could have our space and be together. Then we came back to Plet. Then I had house sitting jobs, and then we had this, and we had that. Then my other grandparents went away, so we had their flat for over a month as well. So it's almost as soon as you came here, all these opportunities kind of like, well, here you go. There's some time for you guys. There's some time for you guys. Because I think if that had changed and I didn't have my own apartment at the time, because I didn't, and we were stuck in my parents' house,
stressful.
things would be very different and might not have worked out. So, there's signs and synchronicities, how things just worked out perfectly. There were times we were here and then we went back out for like another month or 2 months, and things just kept falling into our laps exactly when it needed to give us that space and time to be able to do what we needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that is the bulk of that story, and I think that's as far as we really need to go.
It's about like 0.5%.
Yeah, I think that's as far as we need to go in this video without it getting too long. If you have made it this far in the video, give us what emoji should we do?
A shaka.
Okay, give us a shaka emoji. I don't know what this is this is something else in other countries. It's not shaka everywhere, I don't think.
Well, here in America, it's shaka.
So give us that emoji in the comments if you made it this far. And then if this has sprung up any new questions for you, you can either ask us in the comments or ask us in the Ask Me Anything form. Again, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you asking questions, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.